Welcome back to the channel. If you're brand new here, we take a look at the latest market news, data, and charts and mash it all into one video to help you understand what's going on in the cryptocurrency markets. Now, if you watch me over the past couple of weeks, you'll notice that this is a little bit of a different format in the video, but if you're an OG and watched me over 6 months ago and over the past year, you'll realize this is a very similar format than what we used to do. Now, I wanted to take a little bit of a different approach with this channel. I kind of wanted to show you guys a front row seat as to what I'm doing with my investing account, how I'm taking my trades, and what I'm doing in this type of a market, because it's a lot easier for people to talk about what they're doing. And I think it's a little bit of a different approach to actually show you how I'm going about it, showing you guys my portfolio, my allocations, and everything like that. So from now until whoever knows how long, I just wanted to show you guys, be transparent with you, and build this portfolio alongside with you guys and show you how I'm basically treading the waters in this bear market and hopefully into the next bull market, and showing you the real-time growth of the cryptocurrency market through this portfolio. Now, if you guys have ever watched investing videos, you'll probably notice that this is something very similar to what Joseph Carlson does with his dividend investing portfolio over on the stock side. So I do have to give him some praise because a lot of this comes from what he does and his ideology. But today we have a pretty interesting video. First off, we have to go over the charts, what's happening in Bitcoin and Ethereum's price, some very important news as to what happened last week, why price basically spiked all the way down, and some big news as to why it could happen again this week as well, and some very interesting charts that kind of back up that theory. But again, before we jump into it, as you can see right now, the portfolio value has lost over $1,000 or down 6% in the last 24 hours. We're currently at the value of around 16,000, and if you look, my entire allocations is in Bitcoin. Now, for the OGs that were always asking if I lost everything in UST and Terra Luna, if we go over here into the charts, I did hold Terra Luna and UST, almost half of my portfolio value. And luckily, this was completely by chance, which I was super lucky by. I actually changed everything from Terra Luna and UST into Bitcoin literally 1 week before all of this dumped and went to zero. As you can see, the profit loss on this was pretty decent, and thankfully it did not get wiped out by that. But if any of you guys watching did, this is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to show you this type of backseat stuff, because, and not to give like financial advice or anything, but just to show you guys my thought process and ideology behind all this stuff. So as we're sitting right now, obviously we are still continuing to fall in the markets, and let's actually talk about why last week Ethereum's merge went well, but yet the price sank. So one of the big things is that after the merge, SEC's Gary Gensler, which is basically in charge of the SEC, he was talking about cryptocurrency and mainly proof of stake, which now Ethereum is proof of stake. And he was basically saying that he believes all proof of stake coins need to be securities. And he wasn't taking an initial jab at Ethereum, so to say, but really the only thing that is clear right now is proof of work cryptocurrencies like the old Ethereum and Bitcoin can be seen and, defined as commodities, as you could see down here. But now that Ethereum has changed it over proof of stake, what we've already seen with Ripple and basically what's going to happen with a lot of these other coins is that the SEC is going to target them. So while yes, in the short term, in terms of political and legislation problems, this is going to affect the price. Now, I think Ethereum is kind of the leader in that space now that it is proof of stake. Maybe it may get some leeway just because of the amount of market cap it has, the influence it has, and the ecosystem it has. But when you're thinking about a lot of these other altcoins, that's exactly why I'm not into any other altcoins during this bear market, because there's just so much uncertainty, and the potential for 100x just isn't as appealing to me when you're thinking of things like this, where they could completely go to zero, just like Terra Luna did, but obviously for different reasons. Now, another really big problem coming from the Ethereum merge, even though it went very well, is that over 40% of the network blocks have been done by just 2 addresses. If you take a little bit of a closer look, it is actually by Lido Finance, which is a staking protocol for Ethereum, and then another one is for Coinbase. So 2 addresses have already done over 40% of the network blocks. That is a very big problem. And then over 7 addresses have done over 2/3 of the network blocks. So Again, this is very new. This is something that's very, very early. We really aren't 100% sure if this is going to be a problem in the future, but you do have to remember Lido Finance is a staking protocol, and so that's a lot of people's basically Ethereum being pooled into one, because to be a validator on the new system, you need 32 Ethereum, which is well over $50,000. Not a lot of people have that, so what they do is they pool it together, and then these bigger services become that, validator. So yes, Lido and Coinbase are the main validators, but at the same time, that is a lot of other people's Ethereum. So that's one way to think of it. And on top of that, that is a possibility of a 51% attack, which Coinbase founder Brian Armstrong already said if it ever comes to that, then he will make sure to give back all the Ethereum, because he never wants that to be a threat, and he doesn't want that to be a problem in the Ethereum or cryptocurrency ecosystem, which is good, but we never want to get to that point anyways. Now, moving on to this week, things that we need to look forward in this week that could send the cryptocurrency market down are some really big news events coming up. Now, I don't want to take too much time on this because I do want to get into the charts and show you guys my price analysis and what I think is going to happen, but we do have to talk about some of these things because it's very, very important. Now, first, the Fed hikes. This is basically, obviously, we had CPI inflation come in higher than expected, which means that the Fed is probably going to be hawkish and they're going to increase interest rates at a more aggressive rate, which is why you see a lot of these cryptocurrency or risk assets continue to fall, because if the Fed is a little bit more hawkish, that is bad for risk assets. Now, as you could see, they're pricing in that at least 80% of the market is saying that there's going to be a 75 basis point hike for the federal fund rate. Basically means 0.75% higher than what it is right now. But there's around 20% of people saying that there could be a 100 point increase, which hasn't happened since the early 1980s, and the market has not priced that in yet. So when we go to the charts or later in this video, what we're looking at is that the reason that the market is falling so much is because it's starting to price in that 75 basis point interest rate hike, but it hasn't priced in that 100 point. So that could be something very, very bearish. And we're going to get this news on September 20th and September 21st, one or the other, and they're going to come out and tell us basically what's happening. And that, as of making this video, is going to be in the next day or so. So it's going to be very interesting. I think until that happens, the markets are going to consolidate and they're just going to wait for the news. It could be very good or very bad. Now, one interesting thing is that when we're looking at cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's been following the S&P very, very closely. And if you look at the S&P right now, it is currently kind of how this person calls it, the line in the sand level. If it breaks this support level right here and then this upper trend line, then this could be a very large fall, maybe even 5, 10, or even 15% lower in the S&P 500. And if that happens, that means that's probably also going to affect the cryptocurrency market. Now, when we're looking at Bitcoin, this is really important because when we go to the charts, you guys will be able to reference this. When we look at Bitcoin, I know this is an insane chart to look at, but basically if you look over here on this left side, this is volume. When there's low volume in the market, that means price will drop or rise past that because there's not enough money to hold a support level at that point. If we look at here, this black zone, there is a black zone at around $18,500 all the way to $18,000 in Bitcoin, meaning if we drop to $18,500, then the odds of us dropping to 18,000 are extremely high. And if you look at where Bitcoin is right now, it's basically at the 18.5 point, meaning we could probably drop all the way to 18K very, very easily. And then if you also look, there is another blank spot here at around $17,500, meaning if we drop past 18, we could drop even lower. But one good thing to take away from this is that even though price is continuing to drop, people's conviction is not. If you look at the dormant Bitcoin supply, it continues to go up with age. Anyone holding over the last 5 years, the number just keeps going up, which means hodlers are now hitting all-time highs. And even though the price continues to fall, people are just staying bullish. Now, let's start off with Bitcoin and then we'll transition over to Ethereum, and then we're going to look at the weekly, the daily, and then the 4 hour because it's a new week. So when we're looking at the weekly, one important thing to remember with Bitcoin is that we just engulfed this last week. Basically these last 3 weeks, if you look at these candles, that is a very bearish sign, meaning we could see more downward pressure, just like we saw right over here. Right over here, when we engulfed, we continued our way down, we engulfed one more time, and we could be seeing one more push to the downside. Again, with that liquidity being very empty at around 18,500 to 18,000, meaning we could get a push to 17,500. Now, what's interesting is that if you look left, and we're on the daily chart now, the lowest point back here in the middle of June was around $17,500 because we had such low liquidity. We bounced off of that area, and then we kind of followed this daily uptrend until right around this yellow circle. We broke that uptrend, kind of retested it, and then we fell. Now, what's interesting is that when we look over here, this was the CPI data, which again came out very bearish. We had the sell-off, we had consolidation for the Ethereum merge, and then we went down even farther because now people are starting to price in that 75-point rate hike, and then on top of that, the Ethereum merge, it not doing well in price. And on top of that, we also have low liquidity in this area, meaning we could hit this support level, which would also coincide with the support back here in the middle of June. And like I stated earlier, again, you could see a little bit more clear. This was the CPI data. We consolidated, and then we had that bad news come from basically Ethereum's price, SEC talking about what they want to do with proof of stake coins, and then on top of that, the possible rate hike that we might be seeing in the next couple of days. Now, what I believe is that if you take a look to the left, this is a very important support zone right here at 18.5, because again, anywhere from basically this entire box, there is no liquidity. So seeing a fall all the way to 17,500 really isn't going to take much because there's just not a lot of volume, so it won't stop price from continuing to fall, especially if there's a lot of sell pressure. But if you look all the way to the left, we've already had 3 separate bounces over here in this area, which shows there is a lot of support, which means we could hold up. But honestly, what I'm starting to see is that yes, the markets are pricing in that 75 basis point rate hike, and so what we're seeing is we're seeing a bounce right off this strong support, but we could get consolidation for the next day or so until the Fed actually comes out and says, hey, this is what we're going to do. If it's worse, we can see that downward pressure very easily, but if they continue to stay with their 75 basis point rate hike, maybe we can continue to see a little bit more consolidation. But I think even after that, we're still going to see that downward pressure, and we could fall all the way to here, because if you zoom out and you take a look at the cryptocurrency markets or just the general markets overall, do you really think that we've hit the bottom? Do you really think we can't fall any lower? Do you really think that there's nothing worse that can happen in the markets, or the Fed getting more hawkish, or anything along that sorts? Now, something very interesting to look at now is when we shift over to Ethereum and look at the weekly chart. One thing I want to show you guys is that the next really strong support level is right around here at around $900, all the way dating back to February of 2018. And when you look at Ethereum's weekly candle, this had such a strong close over 8 weeks of price action. This one candle absolutely wiped out the rest of it, and that means, at least in my conviction, especially with how Ethereum is pairing up against Bitcoin, when things are getting more hawkish, people are going to transfer their Ethereum over to Bitcoin because it's just a little bit more safer, or they're just going to take their money out of Ethereum because of what Gary Gensler said about proof of stake coins, it being a little bit more centralized than people would like. So there's a lot of FUD surrounding Ethereum in the short term, but I think they're going to get everything figured out, as time continues to go on. Now, one important thing is that just like that uptrend that we saw in Bitcoin, we also saw a breakout right around here. So we had multiple touches to the upside and then that break. And on top of that, we also had this very strong support that was just closed below on the daily. So we have a lot of signs pointing in Ethereum and a lot of reasons to continue to short Ethereum in terms of price because of what the charts are telling us. Now, where is the other price point that I think we could see Ethereum fall to? Well, the next one could be possibly to this around 1100 zone, because again, when you take a look at this, you see a massive pump to the upside without really any stoppage. So it could be, that there's low liquidity in here. There's not a lot of support, even though we had these touches over here. We also had a lot of price action happen in this area, which kind of starts at around, let's say 1100, 1150, right around that price point. So seeing Ethereum fall, especially with all that downward pressure, I really wouldn't be surprised to see Ethereum fall below 1200. But again, as we move to the 4-hour chart, what we can see is that I have this support level at 1250, which I think it could kind of bottom out. Maybe it falls to this point, and then what happens is that we wait for that data to come out. If it's extremely bearish, we fall and break through that support level, maybe even drop all the way to the 950 support. If it's good, maybe they just do 75 basis point rate hike. Maybe we consolidate at this point. But again, I think in the short term, we continue to fall below these support levels, 1250 for Ethereum, and then around that 18K for Bitcoin. So I know that was kind of a lot to take in. I know there's a lot of news, there's a lot of stuff happening in the price action, but it is a new week. It is also a very important week with everything coming up in terms of, when the Fed is going to announce their federal fund rate hike, which is going to be on the 20th or the 21st, which is literally Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. And then on top of that, the markets are continuing to look extremely bearish, and we just don't have any good news coming up for the cryptocurrency market. So even though this may seem like a discount, I still think we're going to see more downward pressure. And again, I will keep you guys updated on what I'm doing with my portfolio, what I'm doing with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and if I jump into any other altcoins or anything like that, I will let you guys know on this channel. But I hope you guys enjoyed this format of the video. I hope it was a little bit more informative than the last videos. And until the next time, I'll see you guys then. Peace.